Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live Day 2, where we're covering UI and UX all week. I am joined by the one and only Josh Iwata. How are you?
Doing very well. Happy to be here. Day 2, I'm excited.
Recovering from last night? We had a great dinner last night.
It was an amazing dinner.
I'm
still full.
The menu was full of things I can't even pronounce.
That's how you know it's good.
It was great. We have a great week for you, great pack. I can't even speak. It's been a long night. We have a great week.
You're still recovering from last night.
I am. We have a great week. We have a great day. We're kicking off with Josh Iwata, who's designing a really cool interior design website. We'll get to that in a minute. And then if we pull up the schedule here we go. Fancy. Look at this cool schedule. So Josh is right here at 9 o'clock a.m. Heba is at 11 o'clock with Melody. She's designing something for Fortnite, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah. I
love getting into that gaming stuff. And then I'm back here at 1 o'clock with Christine, who is designing a really cool scuba diving app with a bunch of different fish I've never heard of in my life. And there's some, did you watch that stream?
A little bit of it, yeah.
There's some fish that I didn't even know existed, and they're just so cute.
It's awesome.
I'm gonna go home and just like research all of this stuff. And welcome, big welcome to everyone who's joining us live. We have Sam and Ash and Bohana and Aaron and David. If you are joining us live on Behance, let us know where you're from. We're in rainy San Francisco this week. It's kind of disgusting, but we need the rain.
Very rainy.
Yeah.
I came from Portland, so I thought it'd be sunny.
That's true.
Not
you came at a bad
sunny.
week.
Yeah.
You brought the rain with you. We also have some cool stuff coming up. In about 15 minutes, we're gonna have Chat and Win. There's gonna be fireworks behind us, and one of you will win 100 free stickers from stickermule.com. Who doesn't love stickers? But apparently we don't. You don't have any stickers yet. I gotta get some. I was telling Christine, I just can't commit to putting stickers somewhere because I'll get annoyed with the placement and stuff.
Can't either.
And we also have a challenge going on. So if you're on Behance right now, if you go to the challenge tab right above my head, all the way up there, your challenge today is to design and prototype a mobile goal tracking experience using Adobe XD. And throughout the day, you can submit it. And if you get it in before the end of this stream, about half an hour before, Josh and I will review those submissions. If you don't, then the next guest will review it. And then after that, and then the winner, actually, I'm going to get to yesterday's winner in a second, but you can have a chance to win a 1-year subscription to Creative Cloud.
That's great.
Yeah, I know, right? I want that. But speaking of yesterday's winner, if we hop over to my screen for a second, we have, where is he? Simon. Simon won yesterday, and again, yesterday was to design a photo gallery app or website. And he kind of went into the website route, and this really nice looking, look at that, this presentation on,
That's beautiful.
on Behance. And by the way, if you haven't checked out Behance recently, there's new profiles. Have you seen that?
No.
Ooh, they redesigned the profile pages.
They did.
Bigger thumbnails and header images.
Oh, that's nice.
I know, it's really cool. Some of them look really nice. Mine doesn't look very good because my work isn't very good, but you know. Yeah, but this is really nice. And he has a little video of the actual prototyping phase with auto-animate and stuff. And I kept teasing yesterday about auto-animate coming to the web. It's coming very soon. I can't wait to show it off. But it looks, I've seen previews, it looks really cool. But yeah, Aaron did a great job. Simon, not Aaron, sorry. Simon did a great job at this cool photo gallery.
Simon.
Yeah, nice auto-animate.
Beautiful.
Yeah, looks really cool.
So
I
cool.
love the way, did you see that when you close it, like it came out different.
Everything flows and moves out of the way.
Yeah, it was really nice.
It's really neat.
Yeah, so good job, Simon. And if you are participating in today's challenge, you can win a Creative Cloud subscription. Who doesn't like that? So, without further ado, let's recap what we did yesterday. And for those who are just joining us, haven't joined us yesterday, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So, by the way, I love seeing in the chat, people are like, hi from Paris, Italy, Honduras,
Yeah.
so awesome. Thanks for being here. So my name is Josh Iwata. I've been a designer for about 15 years. This was kind of my career path, well, this way actually, from Illustrator to web design to UI, UX design. Eventually went on to help start a product called Setmore that's still actually going strong today. And now I'm COO of an edtech startup called Class Hero. We make math apps for students in the classroom, as well as a whole system for teachers and districts and schools.
Nice.
So today we're going to be working on Weedman Design Partners. It's an interior design website. It's a redesign. And yesterday we went through the beginning stages of the design process. So we did research and helped define the problem. That research involved auditing kind of their existing design material, researching competitors, and then going over kind of the right questions to ask in a download interview. So a download interview meaning you meet with the client, you try and figure out why do you want to redesign, why do you need it now, what's wrong with your current site or design or whatever you're working on. So we went through all that. If you didn't catch that, I would encourage you to go back and watch day one's video, because this is kind of a process, and that first day will really support what we're doing today.
And those download interviews are so important, because if you don't cover enough information during those initial phases and you start designing, you're going to probably end up doing more work with all the changes that they come back to you with.
Yeah.
So the more information you can get during the first few interviews or even the first few discussions is going to help you tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Just the idea of like, if someone was coming to you and wanted you to design a house for them, you wouldn't jump immediately to building a house and giving it to them and saying, do you like this house? You would figure out, how big do you want it? Where do you want it? What kind of house do you want? All those kind of things, all those questions to figure out, well, what's wrong with your current house? What do you want in your new house? What's ideal? You really got to ask the right questions. And so starting out, it's common not to necessarily do the interview when you're a kind of a beginning designer. It can be intimidating to meet with someone and start, kind of interviewing them, but it's super necessary, and your client will actually really appreciate it, because then they'll feel like you're going into the design really informed and that you understand their business and what they need.
Yeah, we have James is saying someone as old as him. So I think he's calling you old.
Wow. Thanks, James.
And we have another Iwata. I would assume that's your twin brother.
That is my twin brother, Nat.
Nice.
Hi, Nat.
So I was
joining
saying,
us from Amsterdam.
he's also an illustrator, right?
He is a professional illustrator. He does VR game concepts and design, and then he also does children's book illustrations.
That's really cool. And I was saying last night at dinner, you were telling us about him. It'd be really cool to get you and Nat, is it Nat?
Nat, yep.
On the stream. So you would host Nat, and twin
love that.
brothers. It would be like a wild trip.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
We could confuse
Let's
people.
make it happen.
We could switch spots, halfway through. That just requires him to come back from the Netherlands. So
well, you better get
come
here,
back, Nat. All right. So this was some of the answers to those questions that I asked earlier. What's the problem for this particular client? They felt like their current design is not creative enough. It doesn't really show what they're capable of. So there's a misunderstanding. Their clients don't understand the depth of what they're capable of as an interior design agency, not an interior decorating firm, which interior decorating is surface level. Interior design is all the way down to the studs, electrical, everything that you can.
And most people don't realize that.
Most people don't realize that. I didn't either. Because they were talking about it like there's this big difference in that download interview. So I was like, wait, what's the difference? You know? I'm like, I'm a designer. I'm pretty well informed. I didn't know there was a big difference. And so part of this is educating the client. They agreed that they had really good photography of their projects. And then if you look back here, the last question was kind of what does success look like? They said they like to get higher end clients, more complex projects, things that allow them to really kind of, flex their muscles and show what they're capable of. So yesterday we did block frames and most of the wireframes. This was my little graphic of block frame to wireframe to mock-up. And this is what the actual, so the idea there is, you're going from low fidelity to high fidelity, low res, high res. And this is kind of an example of block frame, wireframe mock-up from a previous project that I worked on. So let's go back into XD. We had our wireframes up.
Do you ever skip any of those phases? Like, do you ever skip the block phase or the wire phase and just go straight to one of the two?
I typically, I think some people will skip the block frame for sure. I don't. I almost always sketch it out. It's not usually digitally. I do it in a notebook.
Okay,
And I'll just draw out kind of a really quick idea of the concept that I want.
Yeah.
And it really helps inform the wireframes. And I think we kind of witnessed that yesterday when we went from, oops, jumping ahead, not the mood board. I'm gonna open that block frame file for you guys. Where is it? There it is. So, yesterday we did these block frames, and they're super simple. And it's really just about placement. You know, what does the flow of the page look like?
Yep.
Hero banner, about services, commercial, residential, those are the 2 areas of design they do, meet us in a footer. But every step that you do, even though it takes a little more time, it removes time involved in the next stage, right? So because we did that, when we were going through and designing the wireframes, we didn't have to think about what was going into each section. We just had to concentrate on the layout of that particular section, not the entire page layout.
Right.
And now when we go from wireframes to design mockups, we're really going to show the power of the wireframes because we're removing decision making with each step. So the next step, we won't really have to think about a lot of this. We're just going to have to start thinking about aesthetic, color, font, all those kind of things that we've didn't do in the wireframe stage.
Right, and once you've completed the block frame, do you typically share that with the client to get kind of approval on that direction, or do you go a step further?
No, I don't usually share the block frame. Sometimes I will. Sometimes I'll even sketch it out in the middle of the like an interview or a meeting or something like that. But usually I don't share the block frames because that's a little too low fidelity, you know, for the client.
Right.
The wireframes, though, I would warn you when you show them to clients, I do always share those, but you really have to educate them on, like, this is supposed to be black and white, it's supposed to be ugly. They don't always understand, and they often ask, like, oh, could we have more photos, or could we have more color?
Yeah.
Clear indication they did not listen when you explained what a wireframe was, which that's okay. Like, you know, that's part of our job as designers, is to explain those phases to clients.
Yeah.
What I do, though, is I do show these phases. This design process, I outlined this in my proposal to the client, so they have it in writing, and they know what that process is going to look like, because the more informed they are about what this is going to look like, it helps justify the timeline, so they're like, oh, okay, if it's going to take you 4 to 6 weeks, it makes sense. We have all these phases. It also helps inform the price.
That's true.
They're like,
always important.
Yeah, they're not like, you're just giving me pixels at the end of the day. Oh, you're taking me through this journey, through this process. So all this stuff helps to justify the designs, the price, the timeline, all of it. So the more transparent you can be with the client, I think that's actually a really good thing.
Absolutely. And big welcome to everyone who's just joining us. And if you have any questions for Josh on his process or his life as a 15-year designer, definitely throw them in there and we'll do our best to ask him.
For sure, yeah, feel free to, we do look at the chat throughout the whole broadcast, so feel free to ask questions, and we don't mind being interrupted. I don't mind, at least.
Totally.
So let me do a recap of this wireframe file. I had this basic template that I set up. You can get templates on Adobe's website. There's resources all over, full-on kits. I think even just right from here, right? Get UI kits.
Yep.
So you can get wireframe kits directly here. My wireframes tend to be pretty simple and pretty ugly, and so I don't mind doing a really basic, simple file and using that personally. But you know, do what makes sense to you. Especially if you're doing an app, it makes sense to get a wireframe kit.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a, like you were saying, there's a ton on that resources page, and we're always adding new ones. So even high fidelity UI kits, we're adding those as well. But there's a really good, very basic wireframing kit on this resources page right here. Actually, that's the one there.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I've downloaded this actually. It is really nice. It can be a little overwhelming when you download some of these kits because they give you a lot.
There's a lot in there.
You open it and it's like, 20 artboards.
Yeah.
But I think if you just zero in on what exactly you need and pull that out, you'll find them super useful. And also someone had asked yesterday, do you have to have your wireframes in black and white or grayscale? I'm like, no, obviously you do not.
You can make them bright pink if you want to.
You could. Some people do that.
XD pink.
XD pink. But I think the key is monochromatic. So you're not thinking in terms of it removes the decision making from where you're not trying to think of what is the color palette. You just go with what the color palette is with whatever you choose for your wireframe, whether that's blue or pink or
and that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday. Is a lot of times, a designer will pitch a wireframe to a client, and it'll be a kind of like a glorified wireframe with a bunch of colors, and they'll be distracted by those colors or pretty pictures that they're not focusing on the actual structure of the page, which is what you really want to focus on at that point.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's even a danger, I wouldn't danger necessarily, but there is a risk in even presenting a super glossy, high fidelity wireframe, like even these, if your client's color is red,
right?
Presenting like blue wireframes, they may not be able to get over that. Some people have a hard time. They'll be like, yeah, like you'll be showing them, you'll be explaining like, you know, the amazing user flow you've come up with, all this, and they'll be like, halfway through, they'll just be like, you know, but our colors are red. Like they weren't listening to anything you were saying because they were just so like honed in on the fact that you're using blue. Like I've had that happen where I give this big presentation and then they're totally distracted by something in the presentation that is meaningless or has nothing to do with.
You'll always get clients like that.
So that's part of the reason we remove that stuff from the wireframes to help them resist the urge to comment on things that really don't matter, I guess. Yeah.
Simran is asking, what is the difference between interaction design and UI and UX design?
Do you want to take a crack at that?
Do I?
I don't know that there's. I think interaction design tends to be a little more encompassing, but I think when we use that interaction design, a lot of times it has more to do with interaction with design in like physical spaces as well as digital. I would say UI and UX design is a subset of interaction design though, and it's more specifically obviously about digital interfaces and interactions.
Right.
Do you think that's true?
I mean, it really depends on what his definition of interaction design is, because I've heard the word interaction design kind of relate to design for mobile apps or websites that have interactions on them, which in a sense could be part of the user experience.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to really say without the definition of each of those, but yeah. It's hard to say.
Sounds like a politician's answer.
It could be. I'm avoiding the question because I don't know.
Okay, so that's my basic template I used, and then I started getting into here and laying out. I had some of this copy kind of from chatting with the client. A big hero banner that says partner, design, create, to show that was one component that was really important to them, was the idea that they partner with their clients. They're also they're a married couple, so it has like a kind of a dual meaning there. You know, they're life partners, they're business partners.
Clever.
Triple meaning. they partner with their clients. They thought that was an important component, that they're coming in and they're saying, you know, we're creating a functional space for you as a client. What do you need? Not just saying this is our vision, but it's your vision.
Yep.
So then here, kind of helping with that, some of those problem statements that we made, interior design, so not decoration, from studs to surface, showing we do deep design. We're not just doing paint and you know, furniture picking out or something.
I like that because just that one, it really shows the power of a single phrase or a single header. Because like I was saying earlier, I didn't really know the difference between interior design and interior decoration. I thought it was all the same thing. But when you say interior design from studs to surface, studs tells me that it's like from the bare bones, the walls, knocking down walls and all that stuff. And then surface is kind of like the decoration side of things. So that I like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and in interior design too, surface, you know, like choosing your surfaces, that kind of stuff, it kind of has that even deeper meaning about, you know, what are you going to use for your kitchen or your walls, that kind of stuff. Aaron is asking, Josh, did you come up with the page copy yourself? These ones I did come up with. And I think there's some designers that don't do any copy, but I actually find a lot of designers who do page, like web design and that kind of thing. They a lot of times they will come up with headlines. It's not a requirement, but I work with a copywriter typically, but even with that copywriter, a lot of times I'm setting at least some sort of a headline to say this is what the section's about.
Right.
And I think, just like you were saying with this headline, sometimes headlines have to be kind of designed for the problem that you're trying to solve with the design.
I agree.
So writing the copy yourself and taking a crack at it, and then I give it to a copywriter, and I'm like, okay, you change whatever you want, but this is my first crack. Sometimes the clients really like those headlines from the designers. I don't know if you found that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes designers are pretty decent copywriters. Other times they're absolutely brutal, but you know, sometimes it works.
Yep, yeah, that's true. So I think it depends on where your skills are, but I don't think I've ever had a client or a copywriter mind me trying to take a crack at the headlines. Just don't spend too much time on them.
Yeah, and make sure if you're not a copywriter and you're just like doing placeholder stuff, make sure to tell the client that this is not final. This is not what we have to do. This is just to kind of give you an idea of what this section is about.
Yeah, for sure. So below that, we've got commercial design, a button to the commercial design. I want to put a photo in there, and then residential. That'll lead to each of those sections of that page. And then meet the team behind Weedman Design here with, we're gonna put their logo there. And
Nice.
I didn't put their actual branding in here yet, but I will do that when we switch to the actual mockups. So then we got a project page and we're showing commercial and residential. I wanted to do this kind of magazine style. Let me turn these, my guides are kind of make it hard to see. Is there a hotkey for this, by the way, that you know of?
It's a good question.
I haven't found one, but
I don't know. Actually,
I wouldn't mind a hotkey.
I'm not sure, but one of our designers is actually working on a plugin that will show all the shortcuts on Adobe XD. It's kind of neat.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I got a preview of it this morning.
Ooh, fancy. Yeah, I would love that because it's, especially if you're starting out or learning, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
So we've got our projects page, commercial, residential, and I really wanted kind of a magazine style layout where clients could scroll and they could see both commercial and residential. A lot of these design websites, interior design websites, they'll have them separate so that you can only see one or the other. But I think I'm a fan of not having just one image on the screen, but allowing someone to see kind of, it's almost like a mood board of what the capabilities of this, design agency.
This is why I love chat. Control, or I guess command in this case, shift, and then apostrophe.
Wait, that zooms me in. Let me do control. Oh, apostrophe?
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
Or
Or maybe that one?
this one.
Nope. Do you have an artboard selected?
Oh, maybe that's it.
Ah.
Wow.
Fancy.
Command shift. Thank you.
There you
Who
go.
told us that? Multiple people?
A few people, yeah. Raphael, Stephen, and Aminia. Amiya.
Thank you guys, that's awesome. That's gonna make my life better. So I'm showing commercial, residential, and then below here, I wanted to say something about their process.
Nice.
And they also have a partner program, which we're not gonna mock that page up just because of time constraints. But again, we built these sections based on this. We built this based on, these problems. So I think this is like the work showing itself, like kind of coming to fruition, right?
Right.
We wouldn't have laid out, known how to lay out this without doing that work. We wouldn't have known how to lay out this out without doing that work.
Right.
So.
And how do you decide, and maybe it's not you, maybe it's the client, which goes first, commercial, residential, what order?
That's really, actually, and that was something I was like, I'm not sure which one. I'm gonna have this, if someone clicks on residential, I'm gonna pop them to this section of the page.
Okay.
But that was a tough one, and I'm not actually sure because I haven't asked the client about that yet.
Right.
I think it probably depends on what do they want their focus to be in terms of, the majority of their revenue, where do they want it to come from?
Yeah.
I'm doing commercial up here for this stream because this is what we're gonna kind of focus on with some of these interior pages. But I think that's a really valid question, especially if a client has two distinct service offerings, which takes priority on the page. So then we just had started into our project detail page. And I'm gonna go on from here. We also had linked these up a bit. So we had this button that linked here. We used auto animate. Maybe it didn't auto save. We use auto animate to go from here to here, and I'll show that more when we have photos that's a little more dramatic. So we're gonna have the project name at the top. I wanna have a back button because I feel like when you dive into a project, when you're on some of these portfolio websites, you pretty much always wanna go right back to the overview page, and many times you have to hit the browser back button, or there's not an easy way. I don't necessarily wanna clutter out with breadcrumbs or something like that. So project name back button, which has become, people are familiar with this as a design pattern with mobile design now. And then I want to open with a big, beautiful shot of the product, followed immediately by process shots. So behind the scenes, before and after, all these things to say, look, this is the story that we're going to tell. This is where they were, and then this is where we took them to.
Totally.
Right?
And especially when you're talking about interior design, interior, the other word that we're talking about, decorating.
Yeah.
These big, beautiful images are always really nice to look at because in most cases, these big companies produce really nice work. And showcasing that as a big hero image is just I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think so too.
Someone did have a question. I think it was Aditya, the question scrolled up there, but I think the question was something to the extent of, when you first started designing, did you ever copy people's work? It's an interesting question.
I would say you should be inspired by people's work.
That's a good word.
But yeah, I do think like when you are first starting out, and even now, I mean, any designer, I think doing part of your research is to really immerse yourself in other work.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're looking at all the solutions out there, and you're seeing what are the design patterns that are common. And that's hard to know when you're first starting out. The more you look at, the more you develop a design. So a design pattern would be something like a drop-down menu, right?
Totally.
And the idea is that if you've only really looked at like a handful of examples, you really won't have a good idea of like how many solutions are available for a drop-down menu. But if you looked at a ton of them, you'll realize it could be a big jumbo drop-down menu. It could be just a text-based drop-down menu. It could be a multi-column drop-down menu. There's so many options, and the only way to really form in your brain what those patterns are is to get exposure to them and to look at more and more and more. So I would say, you know, if you're really serious about getting into design, UI design, you know, stop looking at Instagram as much and start looking through Behance and like look through that a lot, like daily. Wake up in the morning and look at it. I think that's true of anything that you choose to do, especially visual arts or design, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you're just starting and if you're struggling for that inspiration and the creative juices are just not flowing, I would say copy, right? But however, disclaimer, if you're doing any sort of commercial work that's going to be published as your own or like for a client that you're being paid for, don't copy. You could get inspiration, but if you're just doing it to learn new techniques, like, you know, trends that are coming up in 2019 or trends from 2018, definitely copy them. Put them in your personal portfolio. Give credit to the original designer if you have to, or if you definitely should do that.
You should definitely. I would say copy for practice, never for pay.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's definitely a good exercise to try and deconstruct what someone did. And you'll also realize that, oh, that's why they chose this color or they put this image here. So,
totally.
But definitely get inspired when you're working on a project for pay to figure out what are designers already doing.
Yep.
Yeah. So after these process shots, then I want to have the final result. I don't know what we're going to call it, but let's just say the result for now.
Do you ever find yourself specifically for projects like this watching all these like house flipper shows or anything like that? I'm addicted to that stuff.
Yeah, I do like the shows a lot. And browsing like interior design websites, like Minimalista. There's some really good ones that are just basically like just to get your fix on, you know, good design.
Right.
And they're not necessarily agency websites, but I do think that's a good point. Like as you're working on these projects, it definitely makes sense to go and not just look at like what interior designers are doing, but what does really good interior design look like as well, you know?
That's
so
true.
You get familiar with it in the industry.
Yeah.
So since this is the result page section, I want these to be big images.
Oh, okay.
In the process shots, I didn't mind them kind of being small. With results, I want these to be nice, full-sized images.
That makes sense.
And I'm gonna zoom out and make this artboard bigger.
Would you ever consider doing some sort of, at the very top, like a carousel or something you can click through to see more photos, or is that just too much?
I don't think, I think even potentially having this cycle through would make sense. I don't always like the carousels specifically for interior design portfolios.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the reason is that it only, for me, when I go through them, it only allows me to see one thing at a time.
Right.
But I really feel like when you look through these portfolios, you're trying to envision a physical space. By looking at one photo at a time, it doesn't give you a very good like field of vision. Whereas if I can scroll and look at parts of photos together, I'm getting a similar feeling as I would as if I walked into the room.
Right.
So I get to see multiple pieces of it. And that's really what you're trying to convey. It's not just the details, but also like, what does this room feel like? What does that space and atmosphere convey? So that's why I actually don't like the carousels as much. Even though you have to make the images slightly smaller for this type of approach, you get to kind of immerse yourself a little bit more in the experience of what that room looked like.
Totally. And with that, fireworks.
Oh, cool.
Look at that. So we have Chat and Win coming up. We're gonna take a very quick break, and when we come back, just pound your keyboard, type some stuff in the chat. What kind of question do you want to ask them today?
I don't know. You just come up with one on the spot? That's normally
Sure,
what we
why
do.
not? Let's say, what do you think the biggest design trend of 2019 is going to be? So when we come back, type that in the chat, and a magical algorithm that is probably GusBot will pick a winner, and it'll appear here, and that person will win 100 stickers from Sticker Mule. We'll be back in a second. And we are, look at this chat. What is going on? I guess they're actually.
You said type anything.
I did, didn't I?
It's
It's kind of my fault.
Keyboard, yeah.
Do we read this?
Wow. No.
I can't.
Someone said colors.
I don't even know I saw gradients,
Pew, pew, pew.
minimalistic. You know what I saw? I saw an article not too long ago that people want to bring skeuomorphism back.
Oh, really?
I don't know how to feel about that.
Skeuomorphism?
I don't know. The word is just annoying enough.
So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either, but I do think the pendulum swings hard. Like it goes skeuomorphism to completely flat.
Yeah.
And now people are like, yeah, but we miss like having, some fun things in our designs, not just completely flat.
I think there could be a balance.
I think there could be a balance as
like
well.
when Apple did it for iOS, what was it, 6 or 7? I think it was, no, 7 was when they went flat. I think it was 6, 5 or 6. That was just way too, like the
That
game
was
center with
too
the
much.
felt and everything, that was a
Yeah.
bit too much.
Yeah.
And then they went complete opposite. I think there might be a middle ground.
I
Maybe.
think so too. I think we're going to be seeing more kind of bigger 3D elements mixed into the designs that feel kind of like
Yeah.
real present things.
And we have a winner, Kroll. I love that name.
Congratulations,
That's an
Kroll.
awesome name. Congratulations, you just won 100 stickers from Sticker Mule. Someone from Behance will get in touch with you very soon. And if you did not win, and look at all, they're still going. If you didn't win, go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live 19. You get 10 stickers for $1, which is pretty good.
That's really good.
They got great stickers over there. Look at all those cute little stickers. There's a monkey. I think it's the MailChimp monkey. Dribble, Instagram. Cool.
Great.
Nice.
Okay.
And there will be more chat and wins throughout the day and tomorrow as well if you did not win.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back into the results. I'm gonna do some big shots mixed with some smaller shots. Here we go. And I'm also gonna leave space for some copy, because I think that's part of what we want to do is like tell that story.
Yep.
So I could picture this being, one room with some detail shots of elements in the room or something like that.
Chris Cannon's in the house saying I look shaken this morning. I don't know what that means.
You look shaken,
I don't know.
not stirred.
Maybe it's from last night's dinner.
It's from last night's.
I'm still recovering. I had oysters last night.
That was
weird.
It's the oysters, not the
Very
drinks.
weird texture.
So because this is a wireframe, I'm not gonna get too. I'm just gonna do a couple layouts, and then when we put real images, we'll know more what this is supposed to look like.
By the way, I don't think people really grasp the amazingness of responsive resize. As you're resizing these different groups, that little mountain in the middle isn't getting squished, it's not getting pulled, it's just kind of staying in the middle and it's doing its thing and it's moving.
Yeah, look at
Look at that. That's cool.
That is really cool.
It just
it's
does
so
it.
useful.
Oh, the earthquake. Did you feel the earthquake?
No, someone told me there
I
was
forgot
an
about
earthquake
that.
this
Thank you.
morning.
Yeah,
When
about
was it?
4:30 I woke up and things were just shaking in my hotel room.
Really?
Which is terrifying when you're 26 floors up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm like 14 floors up, so I would have expected to feel it, but
Yeah. It's kind of frightening. But it was only like a 3.7, so not too bad.
was the joke about you seeming shaken? Was
I
it an
think so.
earthquake
Yeah.
pun?
I think so. It went right over my head.
That's awesome. Someone asked how I determine spacing. I don't use a horizontal grid like some designers do, but I always use a grid when I'm laying out my project. So you can see that automatically over here if you select your artboard, you go to grid and you go to layout versus square. Square is an actual grid. The layout will give you these columns. So over here it says 12 columns, gutter width of 16, column width 69, and then it shows you the like the margins on the sides here. So doing a 12 column layout, what that allows you to do is lay things out in, like 3 columns or 4 columns or 6 columns, because 12 is a number that's easily, divisible, like by 3, 4, 2.
Right.
So people also do 16 column grids. That doesn't work as well if you want to do a design with thirds. So 12 is, to me, kind of the magic number, because I do like to lay things out in thirds or fourths sometimes. And then once you have that grid turned on, that's how you line up how wide to make things, as well as kind of how you align things throughout your page. It really helps a lot to do that.
And you were saying yesterday that sometimes you break that grid to kind of
totally
give a little bit of extra spazzle dazzle.
Spazzle dazzle.
I don't know. That's probably not the word I'm looking for.
I think that was the word you were looking for.
Razzle dazzle. Thank you, Gus Bot, as he's walking out, leaving us because he just can't take us anymore. Jasmine was asking, how is responsive design done? Do you have to explicitly pin the mountain to be in the center? So, in XD, and Josh will kind of show some of this stuff. XD really takes it kind of intelligently with some of this stuff. So if the mountain is actually pinned with the smart guides, if you move it to the center, both horizontally and vertically, it'll kind of recognize that. So it'll keep that in the center. And if it's kind of pinned to the left, it'll keep it on the left. But there's also, as Josh is about to show, there's lovely constraints.
So I could choose, if nothing turned on, but fixed width and fixed height will keep that mountain in the center. If I want that mountain to be over here, I would pin it to the left with this little blue left pin. And now it will stay pinned, oops, if I actually do this correctly. Now it'll stay pinned in the left, right? And that's really useful for example, if I go up here to my banner, and these do have to be in the same group for that to work. But now if I click this, say I want these elements to all be pinned to the side, I have to go responsive resize manual, and I can look. So they're actually already pinned to the side.
Yep.
I want them to be pinned to the bottom also. It looked like only one of them maybe was pinned. So now if I resize this banner, you see how they stay put? Which is exactly what I want them to do. But they do move as you start to make things smaller, right?
Yeah, responsive resize is really cool, especially when you start, having to, when you get to the phase, if the client wants to see what it's going to look like on mobile or on a tablet version. Responsive resize, it won't get you 100% usually, but it'll get you about 80%, and then you can kind of rearrange things as you need to.
That's great.
Yeah, Mohammed is asking, what's better, Adobe XD or Photoshop for this kind of stuff? And I think, it really depends what you're familiar with. I was using Photoshop for UI and UX for so many years because I've been using it for 12 or 13 years. But honestly, Adobe XD is built for UI and UX.
Yeah, absolutely.
Photoshop was not. It was built for photo editing, compositions, things like that. So while you can do a lot of it in Photoshop, I found that you can do it much better in Adobe XD with repeat grids, responsive resize, the whole dragging. Even though Photoshop has frames now, but the dragging and dropping is really nice.
Yeah, I think Photoshop is there. It's like use the proper tool for the job, and I think XD is a really great solution for UI work, UX work, and I think we were talking about that yesterday. How the Adobe suite, all the tools play so well together, and by doing what they do really well, you keep the tools from bloating and becoming too complicated and slowing down and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're really starting to work hand in hand. So if you have a need for some really cool photo compositions that you have to do in Photoshop, you can do that there, save it to your Creative Cloud, and then bring that directly into Adobe XD. And then if you have to edit it, you just go back to Photoshop, edit it, and it automatically updates in XD, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've got our home page, our projects page, our project detail page. I'm gonna real quick, I'm gonna link this up. And then I'm gonna link this up back to there. So now we can go here. Cool.
Nice.
And I do share these with clients, and I was showing yesterday that if you haven't used the share button to upload your designs to the cloud, you definitely should. It lets you generate a link, and then you could send this to the clients, and they can click through it like a real website, even though it's a wireframe, which people really love.
Yeah.
It's a lot nicer and more interactive than sending them a PDF.
Totally. And once you get to that point where you're actually going to have someone develop it, whether it's yourself or an actual team, you can share design specs. So it was share and then share for development. That provides them with the colors, the character styles, the widths, the spacings, and so on and so forth, and then any marked assets. So you don't have to worry about providing them a massive PSD file. Because we get that a lot. We get designers ask us, can we be able to open XD files in Photoshop because my developer wants to be able to look through everything.
Yeah.
But in reality, when we talk to developers, they usually tell us, we don't want to look through hundreds of layers in a Photoshop file. We actually just want what we need.
Yeah.
So with being able to mark assets in XD, and you export that as a design spec, just what they need is there, and not just like all this stuff that they don't.
Yeah, and I remember the days of having to like organize and name your layers of some giant file you just designed for developers. It's really nice those days are over.
And it's only gonna get better.
So rough. So I'm gonna rename this artboard to About Wireframe, because these artboards and assets are actually searchable now. And then I'm gonna refer back to my block frame. I can see that I wanna have some sort of a hero image, some about text, and then I want bios and photos of the team members, and then I wanna have a footer. So I'm gonna follow that guide. Oh, there's the branding. So we'll have a hero image here. I'm still in prototype mode. I'm gonna make it a little smaller since it doesn't need to be quite as big and immersive as the project photo. And then I'm gonna have some about text. Actually, I have this saved in this little program I use called Bear.
Fancy.
So I've got, this is from their website, and I went and I stole this, and because these wireframes are pretty high fidelity and I already have the copy, I'm actually gonna use that. So, well, I'm trying to draw a text box. There we go. So now, I wrote this text, but I want it to be in the style of the text that we're using throughout the rest of the document. So if I go over to the very lower left here, I click on here and it shows me my styles. I can click on H2, H1, and choose what I think is gonna fit there best.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with H3, and I'm gonna left align it.
The Assets panel in XD is super valuable because I think you were touching on this yesterday, but if it gets to the point where you decide that Helvetica is probably not the font you want to go for this website, you don't have to go to every single artboard and every single instance. You can just go to the Assets panel, right click on that style, edit it, and it's going to change across the entire document. Yeah. Which is super cool.
So now I'm gonna put this here. Obviously I don't want it to be in H3. I'll say, let's make it a sub-paragraph. So there's some about text right below, some sort of an opening photo. And one of the great things about being able to preview designs is you can see, okay, yeah, that will come kind of above the fold of what I'm defining as the fold right now. So people will know to scroll down.
Right.
Great. And then it looks like we need to have bios and photos. So I'm gonna go in here. I do a lot of copy paste or click on an element and hold down Alt Option and then drag, and that'll duplicate it. It's a really fast way to work with what your existing assets and just duplicate them.
Yeah, you might as well, because if that stuff is already there and already exists, and it really helps with consistency.
So I'm typing, I know that's one of the founders' names. And I don't want it to be a text box because I don't need it to be resized. So I'm gonna go over here to the right panel in my text panel and click this little button, and that changes it from a text box to a text that automatically defines the box based on what you're typing.
And one thing I absolutely love about the area text, no, the point text, which is you're on right now, if you click on it, there's a little tiny bubble at the bottom, right under where it says weed bin.
Oh, here.
And you can drag that up and down just to make it bigger or smaller very quickly.
So cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, that's really nice. Whereas if this is in a bounding box, that's just going to change the size of the bounding box.
Yep.
So there's a big difference between those two, and being able to resize text like that is makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Travis. I'm going to put his name here. I'll just put some sort of a divider here.
And Naaman is asking about character style. So if you go to your assets panel at the bottom left-hand corner where Josh is in right now, with a text layer selected, you'll press the plus button beside character styles. And it's gonna add that to your assets panel. It won't now because that asset is already in there. But that'll add it there, so anytime you wanna either use that on another text layer or edit it, you can do that from there.
Can you, I can't update an existing text style with, like say I wanted to change this. How do can I edit an existing text style?
Yep, if you right click on it.
Okay.
In the assets panel.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then edit, and then that's gonna change right there.
That's where you do it. Great, that's awesome.
Yep.
Perfect. Let me go back here. Okay, so I'm gonna say, Travis, I'm gonna grab one of these photos. And I think I wanna do like a nice big photo. I'm gonna pin that mountain in the middle there. There we go. And maybe a little overlap too. I think that's kind of fun to do because I with their portraits too. I've seen them and they have a very light background. So, but I also need to leave room for a bio. So I'm gonna grab his bio. I'm gonna draw a text box. I'm gonna go back to my text styles and say I would like that to be body text.
Would you want the option to have your layers and assets visible at the same time?
Yeah,
okay.
I think either visible, or I wouldn't mind that these controls being, higher on the page somewhere, because I'm up here working in these layers.
Yeah.
And so that lower left is somewhat inconvenient to switch back and forth to. I also really would love if I could just select a drop-down menu here.
Oh, okay.
And just say H1, H2, H3 and define my style, like in the text.
Yeah.
Since that's where the controls in the text live. So if I could just see this list as a drop-down menu over here, I would love that. So hopefully someone.
And there's a shortcut for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, what is the shortcut for this
Command
one?
Y goes to layers, and then Command Shift Y goes to assets.
And shift. That's hiding. Oh, but it also hides your.
Yeah, if you're in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it?
So if you're in layer.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I'm in styles and I hit Command Y, it switches me back. Command Shift Y switches me.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Dia is asking about all caps tool in XD in the text panel. Yeah.
I would like that.
There is a plugin, I think it's called Change Case, that will do that, but the team is absolutely aware that smaller features like this, quality of life improvements, like being able to change the case of text layers, is definitely necessary, and I believe that's being worked on right now, actually. But you're gonna start to see a lot more of these smaller features come out in 2019 as the entire application gets developed.
So I'm gonna go, I just duplicated all of these because I know there's 14 members.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna put their names and bios in here.
Would you consider using a repeat grid for something like this?
Will it work with a group like that?
It should.
Let me try that actually. I love that idea. Okay, repeat grid. Oh my God, I forget about that feature. It's so cool. That's amazing. So I'll do that, and then I will ungroup them. That's so cool.
I know, right?
Did everyone just see that? I've only really used it for like basic objects, like photos or something. I didn't realize it would do it with like a whole group of things.
Yep. And you could have kept that. You could have kept that as a repeat grid and then edit the text separately. And then when it gets to the point where you're adding images, you just grab all the images, drag them into the repeat grid, and just distributes it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Cool stuff.
Very cool. So let me change this. Travis.
Text works as well with repeat grids. Which
Does
is
it?
mind
But it
blowing.
just, will it just dump it in kind of random?
It'll do it in order.
Really?
Yeah. So if you, in this
So
case,
if I
you would
dump
have,
this, would it?
So right now, probably not. But
No, 'cause,
yeah, right now it has to be a plain text document.
Okay.
So you'll probably need one plain text document for like the names, and then one for the bio.
Okay.
But you know, it's a good start, and it's pretty cool when you have the right case for it.
Because XD has thought like out these new like flows that are actually easier, like drag and drop your photos in or your text in.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that a lot of designers, if you've been doing it a long time, you're not used to that ease of implementation. So you're like, I'm still doing it the hard way because that's the way I know how to do it. So learning about those and then trying to change my workflow is part of one of my goals this year. Is like, okay, you know, change with the tool because it's actually trying to make things easier. You know.
I still run into that too. Sometimes I'm in XD and I try to do things that Photoshop does, or even the other way around. I go into Photoshop, I try to create a repeat grid, doesn't work, and I get frustrated.
The repeat grid is an awesome feature.
It's pretty fancy.
It's probably my favorite. Okay, so I have all these in here. I don't actually know that divider is necessary. Let me pull all these up. I wanted to do with this page a bit of a like magazine style type layout. So it feels kind of like you're reading a magazine page. So kind of bold text, and even though I shouldn't be thinking about styles right now since we're just in Helvetica, but so let's test this out.
Oh yeah, Eric points out that the Google Sheets plugin is amazing. It is.
The Google, oh, really?
Yeah, you can have.
Does it sync your?
It does. You can set up a Google Sheet
No way.
with all different columns. So in this case, you could have put like partner name or something, or partner bio. You can even put images in there.
Wow.
And then as long as the layer names correspond to the column name on Google Sheets, everything just kind of flows in.
That is really cool.
It's super cool.
Wow.
Yeah, plugins are great.
Okay, so here's our page. We'll have a big About Us image, an intro, and then we have these kind of cool bios.
I kind of like the overlapping.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Of course, once you get images in there,
Then we'll
that
see.
could change.
Yeah, for sure.
But right now it looks great.
Overlapping works really well in wireframes, but when you see the real thing, a lot of times it doesn't. So we'll see though, we'll see. And that's part of the flexibility of as you transition from a wireframe to a mock-up, you're gonna have to make adjustments of things that you're like, oh, that actually doesn't work now that I have real images. And
Yeah.
so stay flexible on it, I would say. Okay, so we have our wireframes now. I think the one thing I still need to wireframe is the drop-down menu, or not drop-down menu, the menu in general. And I'm gonna do that by creating a new artboard. So there's a couple things to do here. I wanna look at my viewport, which is this little handle shows me the viewport when I do the prototype. It's at 900 height. I wanted to create an artboard that is 900 because I want, when you hit that menu button, I want it to like slide open a menu from the side that takes up the full height of the browser.
Are we getting
window.
to the world of overlays?
We are getting to the world of overlays.
It's funny because since Auto Animate came out, I find myself using overlays a lot less, but they're still incredibly valuable because as you'll show in a second, you don't have to recreate an entire artboard for every single artboard, you know?
Yeah.
It gets overcrowded.
Exactly. So I'm gonna grab one of these. I'm gonna say, oops, home, projects, partner program, about, contact. And then this is the real size. That's too big. I'm gonna do an H3. I want kind of a big menu. I'm gonna make the line height a little higher. And then maybe we'll add a, this is my trick for making an X. Is I make a plus and then I just rotate it.
There we go, bam.
Easy. And then I want a background on this, so I'm gonna say, well, I don't know, well, let's test it. I don't know, do overlays use the background of the artboard?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Let's see then.
What are your most used fonts in XD? Or I guess in general, Victor's asking.
My most used fonts.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Helvetica, because I use that for wireframing. But for real designs, I'm kind of obsessed with this one font called Geomanist right now.
Geomanist?
It's a really beautiful, it has a really beautiful heavy and light weights to it. With a T at the end.
Geomanist. Manist.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
It's a nice font. But I find Lato is a really diverse font. It's friendly, it's nice. It kind of fits a lot of different kind of forms, you know, and styles. If anyone else has font recommendations, you should put them in the chat.
Yeah.
I love hearing new font recommendations because there's just so many now. It's hard to find, you know, like the perfect font. So I tend to like kind of get stuck on one font and try to like weasel it into projects like for like a few months and then I'll move on to another one. And
for me, it was Avenir Next for a long time. I use that consistently because they have a bunch of different weights, but they also have a condensed version. They have so many different things.
Yeah.
Kieran is asking about font previews that they should, you know, preview it from the drop down.
That would be very nice.
Yeah, I do know that the team is looking into a lot of things for fonts this year. So I think fonts are going to get some love. I'm not sure exactly what, but we're going to see some stuff starting to happen.
It seems like the things I've kind of heard around the office is like the font panel is going to get a lot of love this year, which would be really amazing.
Yeah.
So this is Geomanist, by the way.
Gotham.
It's really nice.
That is nice.
You could kind of see it working like as a Nike font or a more refined, you know, elegant font. So
that's interesting. It's the pay what you want model.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's great.
Interesting.
They're like using like the guilt trip model.
Yeah, really.
Like, it's the honor system. And we'll talk more about fonts. We're gonna get into the Moodboards pretty quick here, and we're gonna go through kind of Adobe's font finder, which is an awesome tool to kind of narrow down what you want.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna link this menu button to this artboard. And I'm gonna do it not as a transition. So these are the, I forgot there's speech playback now, which we don't need in this project, but auto animate wouldn't work because these components are not on both artboards and they need to be. So I'm gonna do overlay because I want it to pop over. And I'm gonna change the animation from dissolve to slide left. So it'll kind of pop over. And you see when I'm doing this, it lets me move where that overlay is gonna come. And it gives me a preview when I drag it, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and when you did change to overlay, it did remove the background.
It did,
so you'll have to go back there.
So I'm gonna add
just add the background back
in here now.
Yeah.
Isn't, oh, I'm in prototype. So by the way, I've done this. I'm wondering if other people have done this. You're like in this mode and you'd like to draw a rectangle or, you know, type, and none of your hotkeys are working.
Yeah.
That's a really good sign that you are in prototype mode. So if your hotkeys aren't working, go up here and switch back to design.
It'd be kind of nice if you are in prototype mode and you press like, let's say E for the ellipse tool, if it goes whoop, back.
Totally.
That'd be cool.
Would be really nice.
If any from XD team is watching, do that. As if it's that easy.
You are the XD team, Howard, right?
I am the team.
You are the team. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I think if I put a big shadow on this, it will actually show on the artboard.
If it's contained within the bounds of this artboard,
is that true?
It'll show. But you can try it without it first.
Try it.
Because I could be wrong.
You are correct. You're like, I know. Let me make the artboard a little bigger then. Oops. Oh, I have auto resize. No, I don't have it turned on. Interesting why it's doing that. Okay, let me do this. Move it over. Then we'll try it again. There we go.
Fancy.
Very cool. And it automatically, with this overlay feature, it will automatically, I don't know why this wasn't showing up. Maybe my
when
placement was
yeah.
off, huh?
Yep.
Got shifted over. Yeah, that is it. There we go.
Bam.
Nice. So cool. Awesome. And then we'll be able to link up these to the different, so links will work in an overlay. So I can click to projects or about or whatever.
Yep.
But if you click anywhere else on the overlay besides a link, it'll automatically just transition it back to the primary design that you're working on.
Right.
Eric says, when has Howard ever been wrong?
Oh, plenty of times. I am wrong a lot.
Howard, ask his wife.
Ooh.
All right, so our wireframes, I'm gonna zoom out here so we can see we've got our template, we've got our 4 pages that we're gonna work on for this show, and then we've got our menu. And they're kind of synced up. We're gonna move on to Moodboards, which was step 3 in this design process: research, block frame, wireframe, and Moodboards.
Nice.
So
I love Moodboards.
Yeah, what's your take on Moodboards? Do you think they're necessary for most projects?
I think so, because I think, clients don't always know what direction they want to take things. And providing them with either a single mood board or multiple mood boards kind of help them pick colors. When you go to you're buying a house like we were talking about earlier, and you don't know exactly what colors you want.
Yeah.
So they'll show you kind of like a mood board, more like a Pantone book of what colors, and then what colors go with the right couches and the floors and that sort of thing. Clients don't know design sometimes.
Yeah,
So it's really important to provide them with something like this, which you can do on Pinterest, or I love Pinterest, just like for mood boards and stuff.
For creating mood boards?
Yeah. But there's obviously much better ways, and XD can do it too.
XD will generate mood boards?
Not generate, but you can create, drag some in and add some colors and things like that.
So this is an example I did for a different client, and what I did was create these. Usually I'll do 2 different directions. You can do more than that. There's times where it makes sense to do 3 directions, but for this particular client, they're an anxiety clinic in Portland, Oregon. They're called Northwest Anxiety, and they weren't sure, and I wasn't sure. Do you want to be like bright and airy and kind of therapeutic and light, or do you want to kind of be bold and Portlandy and hipster? And so because the owner is really both. There's 2 owners, and they're both like super intelligent, educated, but they're also have tattoos and like green hair. Okay. So like they're very much a mix of like of both sides. So I gave them these 2 mood boards, and then I let them choose. So I created this little mood board template. To me, it's not too much. It's not overwhelming to fill out for me, the designer. But the general purpose of the mood boards is to really give them a mood, a sense of like, this is what that design will feel like. So it's bits and pieces, and it doesn't even have to be, this is actually happens to be, some of these are photos of their office. It doesn't have to be necessarily their photos. It could be surfaces. It could be anything that gives you that feeling that you want to convey. And as a designer, that's kind of your job, is to say, this is the feeling that we're going to convey. Because I can tell you what these colors are going to be. I could show you the fonts.
They can't picture it.
No. And so when you see it like this, though, you really get a sense. And I could show these 2 mood boards to anyone, and they can that even if they have no necessarily design sense, and they can really choose like, oh, well, they could start describing them with adjectives like, this is what they feel like.
Right.
And I usually use 3 kind of descriptors to say, this one I said fresh, authoritative, bright. This one bold, empowering,
and
Portland. Portland. I'm using that as an adjective.
And how do you come up with some of these colors? Because this is a nice color scheme, and you have the one on the right definitely a lot bolder. But how do you determine which colors to use and when?
Well, this one was particularly inspired somewhat by their space, which does have some of these colors in it already.
Oh, okay.
But I would say there's definitely color theory about what colors are going to be soothing. Yeah. Using a bright red background in your design is probably not going to be soothing, but it will be passionate, or it could be angry. Yeah, don't do that. So choosing a palette that feels calm, a lot of times we'll have more earth tones, more blues. You can have some like oranges and things in there, but you want to use them really sparingly.
Right.
And so, you know, this one in particular, I was able to use like darker grays. So it still needs to feel soothing because it's an anxiety clinic, and a lot of natural tones, but different than this one. So we're using like dark greens, kind of Pacific Northwest, wood textures. And then that bright yellow really adds that pop and makes it like kind of more bold and interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm not using, you know, bright red in it. Blue also like can be a soothing color, but like a darker blue usually is more serious. Could be a little depressing on an anxiety clinic website, you know. So
and in this case, which one did they go for?
They actually, well, we should do a poll. What do you guys like more? Open or strong?
That's a good idea. We should do a poll. Yeah.
Open, strong. Type it in the chat. Make them both here together.
And Dana's asking, does anyone know a good source, a book, a blog post, or online classes for color theory?
Type that in the chat too. I don't, off the top of my head, know of one particular one, but I know Google has an abundance of them, right?
Yeah, we do also have, I think it's color.adobe.com.
I was gonna say, Adobe has a good color palette.
Very few people actually use it because it used to be Cooler, Kuler, which I love.
Yes,
I love that name. But, okay, they're coming in.
They're coming in. There's a lot of opens. Open.
There you go.
Stay open. Wow. Very interesting.
I guess there's the answer.
So
that's the one I would pick personally.
What's interesting about this, and I think that to me this is a really good lesson, is they didn't go for open. They went for strong.
Really?
And when I designed both of these, I was really—
It's a bold pick.
I was really like gunning for open. Like I really wanted them to pick open because I'm like, this will be a really beautiful website if I do it. But that's the power of the mood boards, because if I had not done the mood boards, I would have definitely went with open.
Absolutely.
And I would have designed something that felt great to me, that was light and airy and professional. But at the end of the day, they would not have been happy about that. And they would not have necessarily known why.
Right.
They may have been like, yeah, it looks great, we'll pay, but it really wouldn't have been executing their vision, which was, you know, we want to be a little grittier, we want to be Portland, we want to be authentic, you know, we don't want to be clinical. And that was part of the justification when they looked at these. They said, you know, we really like both, but the strong feels more authentic to us. And that's what we're trying to go for, is like authenticity.
Yeah.
So power of the mood boards. Let's get into the mood boards. I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna close this because we're done with, this was the logo that actually I rebranded for them too.
Oh.
So this was their—
You just do everything, don't you?
This was their current logo, and it was very tall and thin.
Yeah.
And one of the things they said was they had a hard time printing it and putting it on things because it was so thin and you know, gold. So they wanted something bolder and also that felt a little less stuffy and kind of pretentious, something that was more modern. So this was really inspired by you know, clean lines, kind of architecture firms, something interesting. It's got this little feature in it that you kind of can't unsee once you see it. There's this little like A-frame silhouette of some sort of a building. And so I have this, so it's built in there, but it's not obvious, and you wouldn't necessarily know it, but it was inspired by that idea that, you know, your form and structure is kind of in plain sight and it's hiding there.
It's very clever.
So
it's kind of like the FedEx logo. They have the
the hidden arrow.
Yeah,
which, like,
you can't unsee it now.
I didn't know till BuzzFeed told me or something, you know. So that's the branding. I was gonna show two real quick, even though this is not the graphic design broadcast, what that looked like when I presented it to them, because this is how I present logo concepts. I have a cover page naming the company, and then I have a description and doing a concept overview to say what it's about. So you can get a little lofty in these. You know, the following concept strips away serifs for a cleaner form that feels more engineered while maintaining an attractive weight variance and elegance. And then I present the logo in a few different forms to give them an idea. Now, I hadn't done their branding yet, so I didn't know what their colors were, but I wanted to show them with their existing colors, which is gold and black and white, what that would look like once it's applied. And then I really do kind of a mini logo mood board to say, look, this is what your logo looks like in context with your other works. I found this presentation is so much better and respects the design of what you're doing than presenting them with like 6 logos all on a sheet together.
Right. I never liked that.
It really cheapens it, and I know a lot of people do that, but I think it's much better to give clients 2 to 3 choices of something, a mood board, a logo, a direction, than 6. Don't give them 6, that's too many, and they won't know why they like one over the other. But if you show them 2 options, they will tell you, this is the reason we like this over this. So that's my really quick spiel on logos. Let me open a mood board. So this is my mood board template.
Nice.
And I just have it all in grayscale, and I don't have any branding in there. So let's start putting in branding. I'm gonna duplicate this so I have 2 of these. But I don't want them too close because I don't want to look at the other one. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take my branding here. I'm gonna replace this with the logo. Oops, you need to lock the height and width.
I think you can also hold shift while you're
yes,
dragging.
yeah, you can,
to do the same
for sure.
thing.
And then for this mood board, I kind of like to choose the adjectives that we're gonna be using. So I'm gonna pick one of the directions, but I would like you guys to pick this direction. Give me some adjectives of what type of design we should do for this. What's the style and the aesthetic? So should it be, so an example would be refined, elegant, or should it be, you know, crazy and loud or whatever? And then we'll design around those kind of that description of what people think. So type that in the chat. Type some adjectives of what you would like to see this mood board look like, and then we'll design around that to also show how color can be used effectively to provide that feeling for someone, right?
Yeah. And as you're putting together this mood board, kind of bouncing off what Dana was talking about earlier, I really want to hear what your thought process is as you're picking these colors.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that'd be really interesting because I think I would assume, because I've definitely been in that situation where I've struggled to find, I guess what's five colors that really go together.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's trial and error probably.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something in your brain that's kind of ticking away.
Yeah, that's true. Well, but there's also constraints in the project, right?
Right.
So for this particular project, because it's an interior design portfolio, which is going to be similar to a photography or a design portfolio, you really can't have a lot of color on the page because the photos are the color, right?
Yep.
So it does need to be presented somewhat stark in terms of color usage. And I think that's important because if you don't do that, you're going to have photos that clash with your backgrounds. So you don't want a bright pink background when you have a photo against it. So for the most part, we're going to go fairly grayscale with like a splash of color.
Okay.
So we're seeing a lot of elegant, flat, minimal, modern,
sophisticated.
clean,
I like that.
sophisticated, super few colors.
Swiss typography.
Huh. Anxiety and going nuts. I don't know that we're going to do that one. Let's go with the kind of modern, elegant, sophisticated,
I like that.
and let's see what that looks like. So we're going to keep this black, and then we're going to do, I'm going to start with kind of a color palette. And I actually think doing that kind of like elegant, sophisticated, that kind of gold with maybe like a royal blue or something like that might be kind of interesting.
Yeah. And very quickly, while you're doing that, for those participating in today's challenge, you have about 15 minutes left to get those challenges in so Josh and I can review them.
So let's go with this kind of gold because we're going elegant. So, oh, I need to type those in, by the way. Let's see. I'm going to steal here. Elegant, sophisticated. What was the other thing? Elegant, sophisticated.
Modern, elegant, and sophisticated.
Okay, modern.
Good suggestion, Lauren.
Yeah. Modern, elegant, sophisticated. let's see. So I actually think that, even though that might be kind of boring, that current gold that they were using actually does feel that way. It feels like, you know, very modern and elegant. So let's try, I don't know that 2 colors is gonna work, but this is part of the experimentation process, right? We're gonna try this kind of royal blue. And then I'm gonna soften this gray. So a way to, there's like a warm, adding a little blue to your grays can make them kind of feel, even though it's a cold tone, it makes them feel a little warmer.
Totally.
So I'm adding these grays in here. And then I don't want to go like all the way black. It'll be like a kind of a warm. Go ahead.
You can really start to see how adding like you were saying, just a touch of color to those grays really makes a difference. It's a totally different feel than if it were completely gray.
Yeah, and this one still feels like it's not quite enough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me do this exact same thing with complete grayscale, and it's crazy because you'll see the difference between a true gray and a gray with some blue in it. Now see how yellowy these grays look?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's really interesting.
It looks so different. Even though this is true gray, there's no color.
Yeah.
It really does change the look.
It's super subtle, but it's definitely a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got modern, elegant, sophisticated. We're using gold and we're using this kind of dark blue. I think both those colors feel a little bit royal or sophisticated. Using a red or pink wouldn't be the right fit. Greens are usually for bright, healthy, vibrant. So let's try this. And now we're gonna go through, and I've got some images, and I wanna try and pick the images that are gonna fit with that idea. Where are they? General use. Actually, let's go here. Sorry, everyone. What's the best way to do this to show everyone? Is it this one? It's probably this one.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So I looked through these. These are pretty bold designs. That could be a good contender. That's pretty simple. That's too loud and creative. That looks more sophisticated. You've got the blue in there. These definitely feel higher end, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice one. Let me grab that one. And you guys see how I just grabbed that from my Finder and dragged it, and it automatically cropped it and framed it in there. And that's so amazing that it does that, because it makes something like this really easy to do. So let's go.
It's pretty cool.
That. Let's grab another image. Maybe one of these nice light.
That's a great looking shower, by the way.
I like that shower. Let's put that in there. Oops. And then we can make that bigger, because we're really just trying to give a feel, right? And I want to rotate it a little bit so that it lines up better. Well, maybe I don't want to rotate it. Maybe I want to pull that green. Oops. Pull that green all the way out of there. So to edit the photo inside of a frame, you got to double click on it, and then it'll let you edit the photo in size. And then I want to put the logo, I want to put this W here in place of that A, because that was kind of the placeholder for an icon. And I'm going to turn it that gold color.
Interesting.
And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to make that. Maybe, let's experiment a little and see. I don't know. How do you feel about this blue? I'm not sure that that blue is actually working.
I don't think it's
Howard?
working with the photos. I think there's too much of a contrast.
You're
It's
right.
throwing it off.
Yeah, I think you're right. So you know what? We might ditch it. We might go for a almost.
Jan says, you can sit in the shower? Sold.
Right? I also feel like these blues are maybe a little too purpley. Well, maybe not. Let's just leave it alone for now.
This is all part of the design experience.
It really is part of the design experience. Even though it looks like I'm kind of just like messing around. It is part of it. And that's like, I don't think it's something that's talked about often, is that a lot of the design experience is actually trial and error. Like,
Absolutely.
that is a big part of, you know, especially when you see people in XD, most of the time, like, we have all of this already like pre-planned. So we're like, oh, look, we just made all these decisions and we knew exactly what we were gonna do. It's not really the case. When you do real design work, you're gonna be switching between colors and hues and saying like what works, what doesn't. That is 100% normal. The best designers in the world all do trial and error as they're in the middle of designing. That's part of the process. And that's actually how you get to the best results, is you try things.
Totally. I want someone to create a plugin for XD. That, I don't know if it's possible with the API, but that tracks how much time we spend just moving that little color, that thing, just
That'd be
around
awesome.
to try and get the exact color that we're looking for. Because sometimes it's like a millimeter off and it makes a huge difference.
Another trick to get, if you want to get varying, like the same hue, just lighter, you know, use the color picker, sample it, and then just turn the opacity down. Because I could tell that this hue was a little off from these other ones, so I'm gonna go back here, sample, and then turn that opacity all the way down to make that match better. Okay, there we go. So I think we're starting to look, you know, pretty elegant, sophisticated. I'm gonna go here and find, let's see if there's any other ones. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's
that
a nice
has the
one.
gold in it, you know?
I kind of like that green too.
Yeah, that is nice actually. Let's do that. That's looking nice. It's really, I want to brighten this up. Oh, I can't do that in here though, huh? I can actually just turn the opacity down a little on it though. Just soften it. So I think we're starting to execute. You see how adding the gold, adding the kind of blue-gray, pulling in the right photos, because this is all their work, right? It starts to bring in a feeling, right?
Yep.
Also, I don't like how this, I think you have to look for little things in design. Like, I don't like how this right here, this bench from the shower is like, it almost lines up with the
it looks
staircase.
like it's gonna...
It kind of looks like this weird form.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use, which is also a new feature, I guess, is the flip.
Oh, that's right.
I'm gonna grab the
I'll have to
photo,
flip.
I'm gonna flip it.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
All right, there we go.
And that feels, to me, a lot nicer to have that.
Naman is asking if these are random stock images. I believe they're actual images from the client, right?
These are actual images from the client, yeah. So you can totally use stock or Google Images though, if you don't have nice photography from the client. And I thought about doing that because it doesn't always even have to be in like a photo of something. It could be a texture. You could drop. For this example, we could have pulled in, you know, polished concrete or refined, you know, polished wood or something like that. It's really just anything that will give that feeling about what they're about, right?
Yep.
So far we've only pulled in images of residential properties. I want to pull in a couple from maybe one commercial property too. So I see this is a commercial property. That looks sophisticated and nice. It's much more so than these other ones that are kind of bolder and a little more creative. So I'm gonna pull that in to this top photo. And it kind of gives that architectural
It does.
feel, right, to it. Feels really high-end, but not residential. And then let's grab one more photo for over here. Maybe that guy. Again, I'm looking for these kind of light, airy photos that show that elegance. Great. So now we've got some images in there. I want to talk about the fonts now. And it looks like our timer is quickly running down on that challenge submission, huh?
3.5 minutes. Get those submissions in.
Wow.
And if you don't get it in again, don't worry too much about it, because we have 2 more shows right after this that will definitely review those things. And it's, typically the case where, there's only so much time you can do in 2 hours at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
You're still waking up. So if you don't get it in now, we'll review it later.
And Aaron just asked, is this mood board template available somewhere? It's not, actually, but I was just thinking about that this morning, because I have the wireframe template, the block frame template, and the mood board template. So I'll put those up on my website tomorrow.
Nice.
If you guys tune in, I'll give you a link to be able to download all these templates. I just haven't done it yet, so I don't want to give you the link before I have it actually done. But watch tomorrow, and then I'll give you that link, and you guys can have them just for your use for free in XD.
Cool.
So I want to look through, I'm on Adobe Fonts, fonts.adobe.com, and sticking with this theme, modern, elegant, sophisticated. I mean, there's really kind of 2 directions in my mind you could go. You could go with a serif font, which would be something like this, that has the, you see these little tails on, I don't know what the proper terms are, the serifs on the fonts.
I like tails better.
But that can sometimes mean that the font feels a little old world or too sophisticated, and we want modern also, because that was part of our description here: modern, elegant, sophisticated. So the first thing I really think of, especially for like modern interior design, is a sans serif and something that is thin. So what I love about this properties panel is you can really like narrow down what you want. We want it for headings, not paragraph. I think not too wide, so like a middle, something kind of round and fat. Sorry, not round and fat, round and thin. I don't care too much about the height. I don't want it high contrast. That would mean like really big varying widths, like, fat horizontal lines and thin vertical lines or something like that. So I want to have low contrast in the width. And then I want to make sure that there's standard caps, not just all caps. So this is the list that we have now. And you can see right away, like a lot of these look great. They would work really well. I think in particular, if I look through this, I'm going to go to the next page as well. I quite like usual is nice. I don't want something that's this would be too techy. You see how this is angular? Mm-hmm. It's not round enough. This looks too much like a typewriter. We want something that really will blend into the background. Freight sans is really nice. What do you think?
I'm like, usual is pretty nice too, but yeah, freight sans looks decent. And of course, once you actually get this into XD and start using it, your opinion might change because it's in a real world environment. But it really goes to show the importance of filtering down those properties on the left over there.
Absolutely,
because you can just be scrolling through thousands and thousands of fonts. You can waste your entire day. But if you know what kind of the direction you want to go, then I think there was just like 3 pages that you narrowed it down to.
Yeah, exactly. So I particularly like how it should, like the A in this is, it's a very like, oh, that's not the actual A in, is it? Okay, well, let's see. So I just turned it on. I said all fonts active. That activates it through the cloud and then lets me use it in XD. Is that correct? Yep. That's amazing, by the way.
It's pretty cool.
Because that font was wasn't on my computer a minute ago. Yeah. I went activate, and now when I go over here, I choose this, It's there.
There it
it's
is.
just like magic. Really
Fancy.
awesome. I'm gonna do.
It's very elegant.
I'm gonna look what light. Oh, see, that looks quite nice. Yeah, that looks really elegant. What you'll notice now, though, is this looks super chunky and ugly, right? Helvetica is a bad pairing with a delicate headline like this. So now we have to find a font that's gonna work really well with that. And for the sake of time, I'm gonna look through, I'm actually gonna look at Open Sans. I think that could pair well if we reduce the size and increase the line. Also, that fill color is all wrong because I'm using a true gray. I don't know if you guys can tell over your computers, but it does make a difference to change that fill color. I'm gonna make this one the darker, that kind of dark blue-gray.
Sumaya was asking, how do you feel about having two logos so close together? Does a second logo with a black background serve any purpose? And I think they're talking about this area up here.
Yeah, I don't mind it personally. I think it could potentially be distracting to a client, but I think as long as the board is giving kind of that feeling to them. You know, you could also do things like you could move it around down here and move this one up if you wanted to, to remove those kind of the bouncing back and forth eyes. But now you have these two next to each other, so I'm not too worried about it. So the last piece is this subheader. Let's try with what is our font we're using? Freight Sans Pro. Let's make that not quite as light. That will probably, when you have a small thin font, you have to darken your colors a lot of times to make it stand out. Visually, it will look like the same color as a solid color, but that's because the color gets diluted by your eyes and the computer screen when it's presented in thin lines.
Yep.
And then we're gonna change this button color to this dark. Let me see if we can kind of click around and experiment. I actually like the dark, that's kind of nice. Or we could do this super light tan. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Both could work.
Both could work, actually.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's go with dark. Dark call to action. So we have Open Sans. I guess we could define this as a style, yeah?
Yeah.
So we'll say, oops. And then I want to apply that, yep. This subheader, I want to add that, and I want to apply it. So we're kind of showing all caps or regular. And then I'm going to take this.
So it looks like the deadline is up.
It's up.
It is up, but all of you working designers are still working on your projects. So we'll keep checking, and if any awesome stuff comes in, we will get to those.
Cool.
And if not, there's 2 more shows, like we mentioned. So, you know, keep working.
So we've got, I would say we're done with mood board number 1. Mood board number 1, our goal was modern, elegant, sophisticated. What do you think?
I'm liking it. I think it has a nice feel to it. I'm still not 100% liking the black bar. It's kind of, my eye keeps going right there.
Which one? This?
That one right there.
That
yeah.
one. Yeah.
My eye keeps like just, but everything else, I do like the, I do like that color.
What we could do about that?
Like especially in the top. I just don't know if it works in that middle section.
Ooh, what about that?
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Now that's too much contrast. Yeah.
A lot of trial and error.
It is a lot of trial and error, yeah.
But in terms of the color scheme, I'm liking that a lot.
Well, let's go like a variant of this, and then to kind of show this like lower contrast version of it. See, but then you create you have a contrast problem here.
Right.
You know? I don't mind that though. That's not bad. So I think this is a decent stopping point for this particular mood board. It conveys the right feeling, right? It feels sophisticated. We're using a lightweight font. If we went bold and chunky with this font, that would not match here at all, right? I mean, if I I'll show you how much. You see how one font changes the mood board just so much? We're using Comic Sans now here.
You should do that.
I should present that one. Done. So these things really, it's not easy though, as a designer, to tie together the photography, the colors, the typography, all that stuff, and really go for whatever the feeling is. And so that's one of the reasons, before I even start the visuals, I like to start here and say, what am I trying to design to and for? I'm gonna go with the next artboard now.
And here's a fun tip.
Yeah.
So especially if you're doing something like this, a mood board or whatever it might be, if you didn't add anything to the assets panel, you can select the entire artboard and just add everything.
Can you really?
Yeah.
What?
Do it.
I want to try that.
So select the
I
artboard.
remove these.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just press the plus button beside colors. And then character styles.
No way.
And if you add symbols, you can do that as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really
So there
neat.
you go. There's your assets. Done.
Wow.
Yep.
Can I can't group these together, can I?
No, I don't think.
be
You
like
can move them,
This
but you
mood
can't
board
group them.
visuals. Okay. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to start in on this one. This one was something that I had actually discussed with the client before. So I'm going to choose this one since you guys chose the last one. I am going to say bold, chunky, creative. You don't get to use the word chunky very often in a design.
I want to make that a
Oops,
goal for
that's not what I
2019.
want.
Is use the word chunky
the
more
word
in my designs.
Okay, so we're going after bold, chunky, creative now, right?
Okay, I'm into this.
Okay, good. And let's put the logo over here. Let's put it back to grayscale to start. And then I think as a color palette, I want to try red.
Ooh, okay.
And part of the reason is if we look at, Design Within Reach was one of the brands they had said they liked with this like kind of bright red, or Knoll or Herman Miller. A lot of the high-end like furniture brands use red as like their kind of like
I've never noticed that.
bright color. And so there's something about wanting to like, there's some nostalgia that comes with seeing a color that you associate with goods that you're already buying. So if someone is buying Design Within Reach or Herman Miller or whatever, that red kind of symbolizes something for them. The stark red, white, black is creative, it's sophisticated, it's passionate. And so I'm trying to kind of use that as a jumping off point from discussions I had with them of what they liked and their clients liked.
Do you feel that using very bold colors like this red presents more of a challenge than it does on the flip side when you created that other mood board?
Yeah, I do, and I think it particularly creates a challenge once you start to actually apply it to the designs with photos, because you can't have red contrasting things, you can't have it overlaying on a photo. It's a really, what we would say is a hot color. So as a super hot color, you can't have floods of red on a screen or it hurts your eyes, I mean, you can break all these rules, but it's a color you have to like treat with kind of great care or it will become overwhelming.
Totally.
So I'm gonna go up here. I had some of these opacities down, but I'm gonna try true grays with this.
Oh, that's right. The Pantone color of the year is Living Coral. Forgot about that.
Living Coral.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a that's more of like a
I think it's a peachy.
I was gonna try and mimic it, but I don't know if I can actually do that. It's hard to mimic the peachy colors with the color pickers for some reason. So I'm gonna go all like grayscale with, I'm gonna do stark minimal grayscale. I'm not gonna use a true black because sometimes that can be kind of harsh too. Yep. I'm gonna use slightly lighter than black actually.
I almost never use true black, even when I'm using text, almost never.
I saw an argument for that. Like, it was a big article that was basically was like, you should never use true black. And I don't know if you should never use true black, but the whole point was, yeah, like it rarely looks good to have complete black in like fonts or or colors on your screen. Even like just a tiny bit lighter helps soften it up.
I think so.
Okay, and then this guy is, oh, it's not true black. So I'm gonna sample, I'm gonna make this logo from this black there. So you see, even just with that header, how it starts to feel different. The overall brand, oh, I need to change this to.
Dana says, I'm glad they didn't go with dead coral.
Okay. So just that red and gray already starts to make the brand feel totally different, right?
It does.
I'm gonna go in here, and there was this one image I really liked of this creative conference room. Where was that? No. Let me go this way. So all these residential ones, they probably don't work for kind of bold, chunky creative. That one.
Yeah, I see some of the red in there.
Yeah, I liked it that there was some red in that photo.
Yep.
So I'm gonna blow that up and make that bigger. I like that graphic on there. I think that looks really cool. I'm gonna go and use one of these kind of industrial looking metal stools. I think that will look nice and kind of feels a little more like a, you know, creative coffee shop or something. And then I'm gonna take this W. I'm excited about this. I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna make it bright red.
Ooh, that is bold. Okay, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either, actually. I think that looks pretty good.
Interesting. I didn't know how to feel about the red when you mentioned it, but I don't hate it right now.
Okay, and then I want a picture, like a large picture of. I think that will do. Well, I'm gonna put, this is Travis.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Travis in here. Kind of taking up a lot of the frame to show that kind of big bold look, right? Next to that W.
Yeah.
Humanizes it a little bit, I would say. What else? There also was, I wanted to put like a sketch or something, because to me that's kind of shows creativity. So I'm gonna go in, I know this is from this project, and there were some plans or, I think that will look cool in there. I'm gonna grab that and use that kind of to show. It's a little noisy around right up against here with this other graphic. So I'm gonna flip it so it still is a little.
It does blend in.
It's a little distracting, so maybe I won't use that.
Yeah. Alberto's saying it looks a little bit like Keller Williams.
Keller Williams.
Yeah, a little bit.
General use, let's go back to this view. I liked this kind of tatami, like this tea room. I'm gonna pull that in. That's got kind of the, it looks almost like a tattoo or something. So I think it fits with that kind of style that they're going after. And then I do wanna bring in, I'm gonna double dip and use this slate building graphic too, because I think that actually, it works well in this kind of sophisticated place, but then if you pull in these other parts of it, it also works well.
It's true.
Kind of that
same
loud,
image,
bold.
but just different parts of the image give a whole different feel to it.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I'm pretty set on making that red too. It's kind of red icon. Okay, I'm gonna go in and look at fonts now.
Yep.
We're running low on time, but I think we can do it.
We can do it. I have faith in you. Nils is joining us from Thailand. It's 1:40 in the morning.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for being here,
Yeah,
Niels.
that's dedication. Thank you for joining us.
So unlike the last font selection where we were like light, thin, sophisticated, we're gonna go
chunky.
We're gonna go chunky. That's the word. I don't know that we want to go that wide, so maybe not the super wide. We want low contrast though, because high contrast is going to give us this kind of like multi-weighted, which I don't want that. That doesn't feel chunky enough. So I want it to be really kind of a solid. I'm gonna make this bigger too, so we can see what these look like. So I'm gonna go through here.
Some of these are interesting.
Yeah, and you know, you can change the text too, right? You can change it
at
here.
the top.
Yeah. Ooh, I need to learn to type though. Here we go. So just talking about the type that we're seeing, like some of these where they have like angled letters, and they have a lot of like, you know, curve and bowing to the letter. We don't want to do something like that. That doesn't feel clean or engineered, neither does this.
No.
It feels too kind of handwritten almost. We want something that feels loud and bold, but still pretty engineered, right? I don't know that any of these are, I'm loving any of them. I do have one in mind. I don't know if it's on here, but it is on my computer.
Paralucent's not too bad, but
Which one?
the second one. I've used that
It's not
before. I
bad,
feel like
actually.
it might be overused.
It's over. Let me turn it on. Let's
But
see.
they have a lot of weights.
Wow, they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Okay, let's try it.
It doesn't have much of a style though. It's just kind of a chunky font.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna do parrot now. I just turned that on, so now it's installed, which is awesome.
The A is kind of bothering
Let's
me.
do heavy. Yeah, that it does bother me.
Yeah.
I have just let me see if I think this is the one, because that's really similar to this, but the A is. You see how the A has this
weird
little
notch in it?
droopy notch?
Yeah. Not a
Where
fan.
Apple SD, it's like it feels like when I switch from here to here, all the letters kind of straightened up. They'll kind of like sat
great
up,
posture.
like come to attention. Okay, great. Also, the eye, the circle on the eye, can look a little kind of juvenile.
Oh yeah.
And when it comes to a square or a rectangle,
Yep.
it kind of just makes it feel a little nicer. So I'm gonna do that. Let's go with Apple SD. Oops, Apple SD.
Nice.
And then what do you think about, and then an accompanying font. Any suggestions? Maybe.
Oh boy.
And
Okay.
I would go through and do the thing I did with the headlines through the Adobe font and try and find it. Some of these are these are just my standard go-tos for saying I need this font, and I pull that out and see how it looks. I think Roboto could actually work pretty well.
I think it could.
Because it has some of this kind of like nicely structured feel to it.
Yeah.
But it still feels approachable, you know?
At this point, I noticed the overlap is kind of causing some legibility
I'm gonna
issues.
throw that
How would
behind
you? How would you tackle that?
Actually, what I would do if this was an actual design is I would find the proper photo.
Oh, okay.
So in this case, it might be taking this and finding a portion of the photo that is lighter, and making sure that this is dark enough to read. Right?
Yep.
That's kind of the trick with photo placement, is finding, where is it not going to be distracting, where is it going to work. So like that's easier now, right, to read.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. I also lightened that photo up a bit. This one as well, if I was going to take the time to go into Photoshop, I would brighten it up. It's a little too dark, and that's just how the photo was taken. So then I've got this last button here. I'm going to try to make that red and see. What do we think about that?
I think that could work. It's bold.
It is bold.
Yeah.
How do you do rounded corners?
Oh, so
I
you
thought
can
it was
either
on
pull
here.
one of those little corners and see on the
Oh,
inside.
that's right. I always forget. it's here, right?
Yeah, just pull those in, or on the right in the properties, you can also adjust it.
How do we feel about pill buttons?
I like pill buttons in some
about here.
cases.
It doesn't necessarily fit with our
No.
clean.
No.
Yeah, let's just go straight like that.
When I hear bold, I feel like straight edges are probably more suitable.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Nils is suggesting either Gotham Bold or Proxima Nova.
Ooh, let's see Proxima Nova. Ooh, Proxima Nova's nice.
Yeah.
Let me do that. That's good. Thank you for the suggestion. Proxima Nova. Oh, that's better.
I like it.
Nice.
Thank you, Nils.
Good job, Nils. I'm glad you stayed up. Okay, so this is our second. The one last thing to change the color of that font so it matches. This is our second mood board. Sometimes you can also go and do even little things like add some UI elements. I'm gonna do that just for kicks to see what that would look like. And these are just like little snapshots of UI elements, right? They don't have to be, I like these guides, by the way.
I know, the smart guides are really nice.
And I'm continually, everything I do in here, I'm like sampling from our little color palette. So you can see how everything kind of builds on itself. You define, you describe what you want to do with words, and then you choose the colors based on the words, and then you choose the images based on the colors you chose, and then you choose the fonts based on the look and feel. Yep. So it really is like you're making informed decisions, but you're doing it a bit at a time, and that's, again, the value of going through process, right? Is you're saving yourself work later on. Instead of, if I just came to this and I had to pick everything all at once and I didn't have a process, it'd be overwhelming. It'd be too much, right? So I'm gonna put like a little UI element in there, maybe even a separator. Let me move this up a little bit.
I'm curious after this to see what the chat thinks. Whether they like the chunky or the sophisticated.
Okay, let's finish this off. Oops. Why can't I type? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I would love you guys, now that we have two distinct directions, we have modern, elegant, sophisticated. Sometimes I'll name these two. I'll be like, this mood board is called high-end, and then this mood board is called, you know, hipster or creative or whatever. Like, sometimes it helps to, when you talk to the client about it, to be like, I like high-end or I like hipster. But let's just say concept 1 and concept 2. So concept 1, modern, elegant, sophisticated. Concept 2, bold, chunky, creative.
Oh boy.
What do you guys think?
And Nell doesn't like the word chunky. This is tough.
She doesn't have to. Write it in the chat what you think. Oops.
Eric is asking, what does the company do again? They are an interior
Design.
Not
Not
decoration. You got it wrong again. So they do everything from like knocking out walls to building things and then the decoration on top of that. I'd be a very bad pitch person for that company. So we got a bunch of one.
Someone's saying concept 1 is more feminine.
Chunky.
I guess that would be a descriptor, yeah, like feminine versus masculine, kind of. A lot of ones.
Interesting.
People seem pretty sold on that one.
Interesting.
Feels like Portland. Yeah, that's the goal. I guess they're in Portland actually, so. I think 1 has the most votes at this point.
It seems like it. I was really liking 1 until they started doing number 2.
Yeah.
And I'm almost leaning towards 2 because I like that pop of red.
Yeah.
But I think 1 would look really nice as well.
Well, you know, so I'm actually gonna show these concepts to the client tonight, and then I'm gonna let them pick, and then we'll go with that design tomorrow.
I like that.
So,
all right.
Stay tuned. Again, you don't know what they're gonna pick. Could be 1, could be 2. I actually like both quite a bit. But hopefully this exercise really gave you an idea of what mood boards can do for you. And if I had just shown 1 or the other, they may have just said yes. Okay,
That's
let's
true.
go with that.
Absolutely.
But it may not have actually executed on what their vision for their company and their brand really should be.
Yep.
So
Awesome. Well, with that, on the mood boards, my mood is hungry right now. So we're gonna go get some food. We're gonna be back, not me, but we're gonna have Melody and Hiba back in just a few minutes. They're gonna be tackling their Fortnite app, which is, I need to stay around to watch that.
I'm excited to
But I'm
see
very
that.
hungry.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back in a few hours with Christine, who's designing a scuba diving app. So thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to tune back in to the streams today and the streams tomorrow. It's gonna be good stuff. Get those challenges in, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Daylight.